Hi, I am Jose,
And I'm Krista,
and we are connecting remodeling.
a luxury residential remodeling company here in Los Angeles. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the difference between a standard remodel and a luxury remodel. So
Perfect.
I have some questions and
Right on. Let's go with the questions.
I'll run them through you. Okay, so some questions that people ask, right? First things first, what is the difference between a luxury remodel and a standard remodel? How would you say it?
Yeah, so one of the first uh, concepts that I will describe what is the difference between one another is the quality of materials that we're using.
Yeah.
In the luxury space, we are normally accounted that the materials we're using are like natural woods, are natural stones. We are actually working with different type of height for ceilings. You're not it's not usually your typical build walls. There could be dimensions the way they are set. Overall, it distinguish like sizes and the quality of materials are being used for
Yeah,
the project.
Yeah, and I would also say that one of the biggest differences is the experience overall that you're going to get. So a standard remodel could be just everything, like Jose said, is contractor materials versus higher quality stuff. Some of the things that happen for like a luxury remodel is there'll be different cuts for tile, let's say miter cuts, which is the tile meets at the edge without a specific trim put on top of it. There's more design elements. I would say you're more likely to work with specialty trades. So your general contractor will have specific carpenters that they might recommend. And usually there's a lot more custom stuff. So there's going to be an interior designer, an architect, a lot more involved depending on how like big this remodel is.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I would say it's definitely like a big one to say it's the experience in addition to materials. It's the type of people you're working with also. You're going to get more probably more systems, better communication process. Yeah, those are the things that I would say really define it. So basically, once you step outside of, I just want to redo my bathroom, and you start to go into the realm of, okay, I want to include, a separate shower feature here and different lighting than what's typical, like the overhead light or recessed light. You're probably stepping into the more luxury space when it comes to a remodel.
Yeah, definitely. When for us, the word luxury or custom comes into place, is it's not going to be your standard way to run the normal work that you're doing. Like Krista mentioned, for example, when custom work applies and is involved in this type of constructions, we understand it's not going to be your standard way of installing a water feature, for example when a standard could be like right on the wall, a custom plumbing could be a rain shower coming out of your ceiling, different positions for the handles
Steam
versus
showers.
right away, as normally we see on a standard install.
Okay, so when somebody understands that they're in the space, they're outside of the standard space and they're looking for somebody that focuses more on higher end remodels, how can they vet that custom home builder or that custom renovator?
Yeah,
How can they like
that is
pick
actually
them?
actually a good question because a lot of the times we believe that like large construction companies are the ones normally doing this type of work. And in some cases is correct, but in the majority of the cases it's more like boutique, builders that define themselves in these spaces. The boutique builders can focus on the detail, attention to detail, when large construction companies are mainly focusing on, you know, speed, track homes, just standard builds versus very detail, custom
Yeah,
detail.
specific.
Yeah.
And I would say like to just kind of respond to that question of how to like vet somebody. You're gonna want to first like start with the basics, which is check their license, check their website. Ideally, they have a website to see what kind of work they've done in the past. I would ask them some questions about what type of specialty trades they're familiar with. The go-to should definitely be carpentry and stonework or tile work. Then I would also ask to either speak to some of their previous clients, if they have a current job open, if it's possible, ask them if you can see pictures of it. We welcome occasionally people to visit our job sites when they're empty and we're authorized by the homeowner to come see it. Usually those are unoccupied spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that's a big one. They, like Jose said, they'll be more boutique. So you're probably going to get a closer communication experience from them than you would like a large contractor who's focused on building, like Jose said, track homes. So that's kind of your like general suburban everything kind of, there's homes that have model homes and you go pick one and yours is that.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I would say you start. Make sure check their licensing, also insurance, workers' comp. Make sure they have those in place, and just ask them how they communicate as well. So those are some big ones I would say about like actually vetting somebody, and just also ask them, like I said, about their specialty trades. So their
Yeah.
subcontractors, their teams, like what the team looks like. For us, we work with a lot of specialty trades specifically because we focus on some of that more custom carpentry and tile work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very common for that person not to be an employee, for them to have their own business model as well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. We have a next question.
You're like, let's move on. Yes, I have a few questions. So
Okay, I'm ready.
I actually have like 10 questions. What does luxury building really cost? So, I mean, I focus a lot on the logistics and the numbers, so I can kind of answer that one a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's I mean it's kind of can cost whatever. It's so open ended. It's almost like we know what a standard might cost for some things, but then when it comes to the higher end or more custom like luxury remodels, those really are very open ended.
Yeah, and it's really open for interpretation because the one materials can cost one price, and then different materials can cause a whole different price, and it really depends of what these clients' needs and likes are, and what would they choose at the end.
Yeah, because there are people that really prioritize, let's say like the hardware in the bathroom. They'll really prioritize like faucets or handles. They'll prioritize tiles in there. But then when it comes to the paint for the rest of the house, they're really open to just standard stuff. So
Yeah,
it definitely depends a lot, because the material itself can be uh, start at the standard price, obviously, and then it could wildly go up depending on what you choose. But one of the things I would say is um, the it also depends on the what's happening. So how much of it is actually more considered custom. Some people will choose custom carpentry, but they're looking for like a regular texture on their walls. They're not like looking for a higher quality, smooth texture. So it really depends on what the person wants and their materials they need.
yeah,
I would say, I mean, this is said to be like a good range. You can estimate between $400 and $600 a square foot, like just to get you rolling. I wouldn't take that with like a fact, more so because there's so many
yeah.
variables.
There's so many variables in there.
Yeah, but like a standard, I would say starts. We know more bulk stuff, so like for example, like a standard bathroom typically starts around 25K in Los Angeles, but then a luxury with separate features, separate bath and shower, that can be like start at 40 and kind of go up exponentially from there. So a lot of variables when it comes to the cost, but that one I feel like at least I can answer that we don't know, only because it depends on what the person wants. It is a custom experience.
Yes, and it can change.
Okay, so you know how you were talking about the boutique builders?
Hmm.
So what's kind of another, besides what they focus on, what would you say is another difference, or maybe a pro by working with a boutique builder versus a big construction company? What would you say is like a possible pros and cons? Obviously, it's not every time, but what would you consider?
You know, I'm gonna start with the boutique builder, right? From my experience, that is their space. That is their space. They've been focusing in these type of builds, custom builds, that for them it becomes a just like a language that they're really dominate. That's their space, and they want to always keep that consistency on the work they do.
Mm.
And everybody that comes into their space, they start adapting to the same idea, because when you come from a new build versus a just a regular turnover, it can come with little differences and the hiccups that you can come across. And I feel like the boutique builders, because they've been focusing on existing builds, they already understand, the pros and cons they will be facing through these remodels.
Well, I also think like a big construction company, a big firm. One of the things is do really well is they can get their costs pretty solid for building like framing and plumbing, and they can do it typically with speed, and that comes out quite well sometimes. That's like the pro for them. I would say the con for the big construction companies is they're not hyper focused on a lot of the custom finishing work, and a lot of them don't even know how to do it, so they're bringing their guys who are used to doing just orange peel texture, linoleum flooring, or not linoleum,
Plans,
LVP, yeah,
LVP.
just that kind of flooring. And they're being asked, say, to do something a little different, like concrete or Venetian plasters or wallpaper that maybe don't seem complex at first. But if they don't have that experience, you're not going to get the proper installation. So whatever was done right behind the walls is going to be like kind of maybe not finished quite as well. So I would say the pro with the boutique builder is the communication. Like you're gonna have way better communication most likely, because the experience is tailored to you. You're probably one of the few people they're focusing on in that moment. And B, they understand, or like us, they understand like that, like it is your home, and this place is not just slap some paint on and go. You want somebody that cares about your home as much as you do, and I would say a boutique builder does that. In addition to having those finishing like focuses, making sure the finishing is what you receive, in addition to what's behind the walls, and communicating that the whole way. So. And then on that note, what kind of timelines are different between that big firm, or like not a big firm, but a standard remodel and a boutique or a luxury remodel?
So let me see if I kind of get that question right. So what is the difference between a standard?
Well, like in timeline. So we talked about the main difference between like the standard and the
Okay.
luxury, but like timelines, what would somebody look? Because I feel like a standard timeline is so easy for us just to say this is average for standards because we've done so many of them at this point. We can pretty much say like a bathroom's going to take this long, 3 to 4 weeks. A kitchen's going to take 3 to 4
Yeah.
weeks. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to, like standard builds, like off the shelves materials, these materials usually they allow you to play with them. Like if your walls are, let's say, a little crooked, you are able to make these materials work, and allow you to move faster, get these installs taken care of. When you are dealing with high quality materials, a lot of these materials require to have like super straight walls, plumb walls, everything super level in order for them to, really deliver the idea what they're made for.
And
And
they can take longer because of that. They can
yeah,
definitely take also like just delivery times on some of this custom work. I mean, you don't want your carpenter to rush something,
yeah.
if it's not going to be up to high quality. So you want speed, but the focus on the artisanship, I would say, comes first. So timeline wise, I mean, it's kind of open ended also. It really depends on it's sadly it's kind of like depends on the scope of work. I would say it's not much longer than standard, especially if it's the schedule is written well, but
Mhm.
overall it's definitely going to take little bit longer to have higher quality finishes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in terms of time, I would say our let's say our a standard I'm gonna say a bathroom remodel. A standard bathroom remodel can take, 3 to 4 weeks on an average time. When it comes to about a bathroom on the luxury space, probably an extra 2 weeks, right? Just to kind of understand.
Yeah, especially with like if you're getting a custom vanity, just like we said, some of the tile work might be more extensive, and the leveling of the walls might be more extensive. But also, I think that it's probably takes longer in the preparation and the
Hmm.
planning. That's where I think the majority of the time goes. Because you're saying like extra 2 weeks on site, and I totally see with that, like just a best guess.
Hmm.
So 4 to 6 weeks versus 3 to 4 weeks if you're a good builder. Um, but I think like there's definitely more time invested in the planning stage because
Yes.
you're gonna have an interior designer, sometimes an architect, depending on what's being replaced, what's being changed. So that process is gonna take a couple extra weeks on the front side. So
Yeah.
I would definitely be prepared. Like if you're thinking, like I'll use an example right now. So we have a lot of people that like to get stuff done before the holidays, right? So if you like to get stuff done before the holidays, obviously you want to lock in your contractor early enough, and also you want to have the designs like ready and prepared because you don't want to rush the finishing work, the custom, the like actual like artistic part of it all.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you have it in place. So I would say, depending on the complexity, you can start that conversation a year to 6 months in advance. And then, ideally get it rolling. Summer is a good time to start. We've had to, you know, squeeze some stuff out for people on short timelines, and we've done pretty good at that.
Yeah.
But it's it's a lot of late nights. So
Yeah, and especially you mentioned a key important word here is preparation, and there's a lot of work that is happening like behind the curtains that is not really seen yet, on site. But it does become a key factor as getting this work to break ground, basically.
yeah, and that's why I'm shifting. When it comes to like the timeline overall, I definitely think that and the cost, you have to that can also vary wildly based on the contractor, right? Because I
Hmm.
can give like a real world example. We had a client who wanted to work with a specific stone person, and which we're obviously always willing to coordinate with people, especially if our clients want us to like work with people they've requested, and their timeline was much longer than our stoneworkers.
Yeah.
We just that's just we operate much faster, so it was definitely different. They did a good job in the end. It had a lot of little bit of hiccups here and there on the that specific stonework, but so it really depends. Like the costs and the timeline are gonna depend so heavily on who you're working with. I think I say this still all the time, but it goes back to kind of like trusting your gut when it comes to that. Because if you're looking for custom work and your primary focus is speed and cost, you might not get the quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would be more caring about, how do you feel about this person overall, this group.
Yeah. Another thing I want to add to all this is clients and contractors. Um, so in some of the cases, by clients trying to take some things on their own, like for
Yeah, we've
example,
experienced. Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was talking about a
yeah,
little bit.
similar to that, because like for example, in this situation, the client uh, they brought in a different stone installers, right? That alone, on their side, that but that took for them what, like a month
Yeah,
to a simple
first,
counter swap.
yeah, which like I was like less specific, but for us, that would take just a few days to get,
Just a few days.
yeah,
Yeah.
to get it down. But I think also, like just to, and I know that's like a little tangent, but like just to talk about that situation, one of the things about a boutique company or a luxury company is usually they have connections to all of this. So when somebody asks us for, hey, do you have a pest control recommendation for tenting, or do you have Venetian plaster, carpentry? We have these people in our network.
Mhm.
Somebody who's maybe uh, a standard remodeler or they don't do custom work, they probably don't have all this lined up. Because in for us, it's better to work with all these trades, and that way we can ensure that the project gets done fast and quality control, basically.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely, because when it comes to timelines, we've been affected now by situations we got ourselves in. Like, for example, and we still accept, right? Like bringing in other contractors or other subs that are not necessarily on our network
yeah,
from
but
the
then
client side. But every time our experience is, it really it slows down the production because now we cannot really arrange, we cannot be managing that team that and this at this point the clients and that side of
yeah, this
sucks.
any other teams brought in are typically like they're hired by a client, so that's why I think that that kind of goes with that big like standard remodelers. You got the general contractor, and then you're working with this person, and you, the client, become the project manager, and you also, um, I mean, it's given people so much stress. I've seen so much stress from that. So that's why we like to, as what we would consider like luxury or boutique, we like to handle all the trades and really just manage the timelines, manage the quality, because we can also ensure that if we work with a subcontractor and we bring them to our client, it's our responsibility to make sure they deliver a quality product. But if a client brings their subcontractor, it becomes their responsibility. So
Yeah.
if that's not too confusing, but the whole like I would say the whole conversation wraps around a luxury remodeler, a luxury builder typically has all the connections that you need in order to go from A to Z to supply you with your finishing work. I would say standard contractor probably doesn't have everything you need if you're looking for some of those custom trades and custom materials. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good description.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I gotta wrap my head around the whole thing too while I was saying it. Okay, so in terms of higher end contractors or luxury contractors, what are some credentials someone should be looking for if that's what they're looking for? They've already decided they're not hiring a standard remodeling contractor. They want to do something with more boutique company. What are some credentials that they need to be aware of or paying attention to while they're hiring that person?
So, one of the credentials I will say be right away up front with them is they should be able to, show you past work.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, start with their license. Double check that.
Yeah, that is
I feel
that
like
is the
that's true with it. I
standards.
feel like that's standard
Yeah,
actually.
that is the standard. I feel like that should not be even a question, but absolutely. But that should be followed along the line. Every time somebody delivers an estimate to you, if they have a license, they will be showcasing their license.
Yeah.
In some cases, even though they have it, they don't, but why not, right? I always ask that question. Why is not in their estimate?
Estimates. Yeah, and I would say like the first, obviously, like he said, like Jose said, the first thing for even a standard remodeler or standard contractor is to make sure they're licensed, they have insurance, they have workman's comp. That's easy. Not everyone has insurance, and I know this is kind of like another off topic, but like a bond is actually not an insurance. So a liability insurance. So it is a type, but in reality, every contractor who is licensed in California has to have a bond in order to get their license in general. So technically they're not supposed to even be like advertising that, but I wouldn't consider that insurance. So when you ask for insurance, if they have insurance, make sure that you're not talking about the bond. Make sure you know that you're talking about the general liability
Yeah.
insurance.
Hmm.
And then obviously talking about warranty, a lot of like luxury groups will have um, extended warranties. I know a lot of the subcontractors we work with for specialty trades, they have really good, some of them lifetime warranties on
Hmm.
stuff, which isn't every trade.
Right.
And then of course the license and the workers comp.
Yeah.
Those are the first easy basic credentials, but then like you were saying, more fluid would be, you know, past work.
Yeah, and there are gonna be things, key things that you'll be able to recognize right away. Usually, a person that manage themselves in that space, they already have something that differentiate. They're different from others. One is communication. You know, they're able to right away bring you to understand, you know, what the procedure will be. Just overall thinking that it's gonna be a snap of your fingers and things will magically appear. That's never the case. So that person will understand, will give you a good timeline. They will allow you to you ask questions and get clear answers back. If you, for example, want to see some of their work, they should be able to provide you, you know, with past
Website,
a website,
pictures.
you know, a connection to perhaps past clients.
Yeah, referrals I think are super important
They
because
are.
they will share their experience. And we like to refer people that have actually given us like challenges in the past because we understand that we have gone through those challenges and they see it as, oh my gosh, they're actually, they give us the best
Yeah.
reviews, surprisingly, always.
Hmm.
But I think referrals are really good. It's obviously a big red flag if someone doesn't have a referral to talk to. And then just like ask what's the flow of the day? You know, sometimes there's builders or remodelers who will go and they'll show up at 10, they'll leave at like 2, they won't be there. So we kind of give people a clear understanding of what the schedule looks like. We're going to be here from, during the week, this time to this time. This is what expected. The communication, I think, is there, like, and delivered really clearly from the start. So, but I say like the biggest credential always like go back to trust your gut. Like, how
Yeah.
do you feel about these people? You're going to be working with them. They're in your home, whether you live in the home now or don't. They're in your home, so you want to make sure you feel comfortable with these people in your home.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now we're talking about a perhaps a very small space of your home, like a bathroom or a kitchen. But in the event where you're doing the full house, you know, that we're talking about.
Yeah, they're in charge of making sure your home is both delivered like in a way that gives you the look you want, but also is done safely and responsibly. And there's a lot, you sleep there at night. You want these people to make sure they take good care of what
Yeah,
you're giving them.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So that kind of goes back to like not necessarily a question, but it's a conversation that gets brought up is like why do some contractors are terrible at communication? What really differentiates the communication style from like luxury contractors versus like a standard contractor like that you've seen in the past? What's your experience with like some group like us versus,
Yeah, at that point, on that stage of you know, when you understand you're doing a custom build and you're doing these very boutique jobs, you're not operating with a one team or one person. You're operating with a team. This person with their team, they already understand the areas, right? And for us, for example, you and I, we are the ones making sure that our clients understand timelines, understands what happened on the day-to-day basis, getting a report at the end of the day what happened. A lot of the times, you know, on standard builds, when somebody is taking, you know, the work on their own, you know, they wouldn't have the time to understand the communication part or how important really it is to deliver that.
Yeah, I would say like a standard contractor commonly I mean, they can sometimes send reports. I would say you're probably not getting as much communication. They might not even send a report, but in the case that they do, most likely they're probably not going to review it with you at the end of the day also, or when you're available, because there's a lot of terminology of like work that's happening during the day that maybe a homeowner doesn't know about. So I would say a standard contractor, their communication style is pretty reserved, most likely because it's kind of cookie cutter for them. So a lot of times I don't think that they focus as much on communication. And then when you're talking about, people in the luxury space, the communication style is really going to be based on the client. So, for example, us, we communicate either, send an email with a PDF report, pictures, details, summary, or we talk via text. We sometimes will call the clients, and then we have clients that actually they are they just want to relax. They don't want to be overly communicated to. So we try to focus our communication on the most important aspects for them, and only when necessary. We value people's time. I think that's the difference between the luxury remodeling space too, is just understanding that some people want lots of communication and explanation, and some people want no communication. They just want to know that it's getting done and getting done right. I'm kind of like that person. I don't want you. I feel like I'm like you. Like if it's me, I'm like, I don't want to hear anything. Just do it and then tell me when it's done. And
well, one of the beauties for us is we always been able to establish that from the very beginning. Like we asked that question: what is the type of communication? How much involvement would you like to have during these project, the remodel or the new build? And like you said, a lot of the times,
I think that's
they don't need that. They don't want that. They're okay with us just taking over and just getting the work where it needs to be.
Yeah, and just sending a report, sometimes a quick little text. It honestly depends on the person. I would say like one of the things about that really differentiates the luxury and standard contractor is that the luxury contractor will actually ask that. They'll ask you what's your communication style. From a standard contractor, I would just expect to get calls whenever at any time, and maybe no photos and maybe no reports or anything like that. So it really depends on how you like to get your information and how involved you want to be. But the luxury contractor should be asking you that. Okay, I have a couple more questions. So, what is the difference between, I mean, this question feels pretty obvious to me, but people ask this. What's the difference between a new build versus a high-end renovation?
So, new build.
Well, there's nothing there.
Yeah, so it's nothing there. So I would say a new build definitely gives you more control.
Yeah, I mean, nothing exists, so the mind is whatever you want it.
Correct. Yeah, the new build gives you more control, and of course, you can still make that to be a high end, a new build, versus a remodeling a space, right, that currently exists. That comes with many of the cases, so many things you just don't see, right? That's why we always let our clients know, hey, we need to take this to the studs. We need to understand right from where it stands what really it's needed for these projects, because a lot of the times you remove things partially, you don't get to see really what's going on, versus just taking it all the way to the studs. It really allows you to see history of what's been going on inside those walls, and you want to be able to see that before you go and move on and install these very very good investment that you put in these materials, because once they're on and installed,
how are you going to replace
you don't want to disturb those walls.
Yeah, that's one of the big things with a high end renovation. I would say it's almost as if you're going to a new build. It's actually can be more complex because you're blending older stuff with newer stuff. And say this is not something that you're doing by choice. Say, the occasional there was a flood or whatever, you want to bring the space back to match the aesthetic of the house. If you have an older home, that's going to be quite different. There are a lot of people that don't focus on the same crafts that used to exist 100 years ago here in Los Angeles. So I would say you're blending old with new, and it can be quite complex. And in that case, you would definitely most certainly want somebody who focuses on custom work, boutique, luxury, that whole thing. And then when it comes to new build, again, it depends on what your finishing you want is, but new build, you're kind of just starting from scratch. So you have a more open playing field of what you can do. And it really depends on like how much you're doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And especially when you start the build, right? Is all in the rough stages. The rough stages, it's pretty much the same. It's until you get to the finishes that you start now paying attention to detail, because you know that's where your standard install don't apply when you're using these high quality materials, and that's where time slows down a bit. Uh, but at the same time, that's where you are more focused and you're paying more attention, because these materials, they don't have room for error. You know, it just
They
one
have to
and
be
done.
level,
Yeah.
yeah. And you know what? For me, I really like personally, I really like older homes and I like the history of a home, and I think that's probably why we remodel is we like to see like this history, and we like to kind of turn something that maybe was somebody wanted to, get rid of and throw away into a fresh new space, and we could really like reinvent something, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and one of the discoveries that I have found when I been asking myself the question, why am I doing this? I find out that I'm doing this mainly because I really love it. I really love the turnaround effect of, you know,
The before after.
like the before and after, and also you know, just seeing the experience of the clients, you know, from the beginning to the end, and especially when we were able to restore, you know, bring
Bring
something
something back to
back to life,
life.
but it did not lose their essence of what there always have been. Because a lot of the times people don't really want to, you know, take these spaces out. But like Krista mentioned, you get a flood, you get an incident at the house where it still needs to be taken out, but you want to restore it back to, you
Its
know,
original
to its
essence,
original
yeah.
essence. Um,
Maybe not exactly the same sometimes, but you want to, if you're doing it, you probably want to bring in a little bit of a,
yeah.
you know, something that you didn't like before, maybe change it up now. But I mean, you can do that too. You can bring it back to exactly what it was before.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so one of the final questions that I have is, can your contractor really deliver luxury level results? I would say that would go back to the vetting process, because and choosing between somebody who focuses on just standard like remodeling versus higher quality, high end remodeling.
Yeah. And also, uh, ask these questions.
Yeah,
Yeah, ask these questions. There's nothing wrong with asking these questions. We are expecting these questions to be asked to us. Have you guys done this before? Do you have any work that you can show us from the past? Once again, do you have any recent clients that you work that I can talk to? And all these questions, you know, can be brought to you and us. Will
yeah, and and also like I've talked about repeatedly is like trusting your gut. I'll give you an example. Like one of an old client of ours, they asked us to do something that we actually hadn't done before,
yeah,
and no contractor would do it. It was just kind of basically restoning a barbecue, like remodeling a barbecue, but no one else had done it before, and or said yes to do it with them, and we were like, we haven't done that, but we're willing to figure it out.
we understand what needs to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, and we did, and it was actually, we got our own, teaching in it, but also they were willing to take a risk on us because they trusted their gut, they liked us, they knew they wanted to work with us. And I think that's kind of, maybe they haven't done anything. If you have like a wild, crazy idea, I can't expect, if you're in the luxury space, most likely you are submitting ideas that are maybe super unique to you. Um, Go back to understanding, hey, I'm having this conversation with this person. Do I feel confident that they can do something that I'm asking them to do that's, different?
Hmm. And one thing that I will always highly recommend when you are involving luxury materials, custom work, is that there is a designer involved.
Yeah, I mean, you need to have a designer. There's so many like,
And why? You know, one of the reasons
yeah.
always the question is why. A designer saves a lot of time, because now you're not going to be focusing on making decisions based on not necessarily what you want, but also what matches. You
Hmm.
know, what really works, what color goes with what other colors, what type of wood goes with type of irons you're choosing.
The flow, the overall like ins and outs, entries. Yeah, I mean, we recommend designers all the time to people that have because each designer probably has they have their expertise. And occasionally our clients will want to work with their specific designer that they have. And we love that because we're not designers. We focus on,
We're the builders.
we're the
Builders. We
builders,
understand the codes. We understand the ins and outs of the project. We understand the managing
the
of the
logistics.
project. We understand the city, how the city works, what regulations they need. Those are the kind of things you won't even have to worry about because we understand that
But
ourselves.
but you definitely want a designer to come in and just lay it out. This is where we're using all the way down to the handles on something,
Yeah,
the final details, and that's going to make the whole project much smoother, both for you to have that clarity of what the final decision is going to look like. A lot of people, I think sometimes people try to save money by avoiding a designer and they end up spending more money.
yeah, always.
Either based because of
Always.
time or indecisiveness or
Indecisiveness, honestly, that's usually what we seen usually happens. Indecisiveness will just prolong start dates. If, for example, if you're not sure how you combine certain things during the process, you have to stop, and then that will even hurt the
slows down the
contractor
project.
along those decision-making times. So it's really good to have those things already in place and move on with the full project once you're ready. You work what, and believe me, there's still some decisions to be made along the time, but at that point, you're just modifying those decisions versus making a decision.
Yeah, and overall, I would say kind of it's going to make your experience better. Another, and this is going to be kind of my last little tidbit. Another thing I would say, my closing thought here on a standard contractor versus a luxury contractor. The luxury contractor is not only going to focus on what they're delivering to you, but they're going to focus on your experience. So making sure that your stress level is a priority to them. I
Yes.
think that's what we do. We like our clients to feel low stress. You and I thrive in stressful environments,
Yeah.
and we understand that we want the experience to be much more relaxing and enjoyable because if you're going to remodel, it's always stressful. So the only thing we can do in this space is make sure it's not as stressful.
As much as possible. Yeah.
What is last thought? What would you say is one thing you want to leave on this topic?
Uh, really plan this well. Really plan this well. Take the time. Uh, and a lot of the times, even a standard is it's not a good idea at all to rush the process.
Yeah.
The process will need preparation, and when you take the time to deliver what you really need and want, the other side, which is the contractor side, will take the time to understand and put together a more tailored, estimate a more tailored work experience. So don't rush it. Enjoy the process because at the end of the day, it will turn out into something very beautiful.
Yeah, well said. Okay, well, thank you, and we will see you next time.
Yes, indeed.